Welcome in, Bleav in Nebraska. I am Kaleb Henry. It is Illinois week. Midway through the week, it's moving faster. I have to remind myself it is only Wednesday, but Husker football 2 days away as Nebraska hosts Illinois this Friday for the 400th consecutive sellout and game number 1 on the Big Ten slate for the Huskers this year. And to get a pulse of the way a lot of the fans are feeling, a lot of the people around Lincoln are feeling. Going into this one, I had to go to my old colleague, Jack Mitchell, with KLIN Radio. And if anyone doesn't know, Jack and I used to have a show together. He's been carrying on without me. It sounds great already. But Jack, happy to have you on with my new venture here in Bleav in Nebraska.
Thanks. It's weird. Same thing we've done for day after day after day after day for years, just a slightly different setting. So here we are. Odd, but it's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So through the non-conference, it's 3-0, and this is something that you brought up when I was on your show this morning. Is that are we spoiled already? Like, are we feeling like we're addicted to the winning in a way that we haven't been for several years? Not just because Nebraska's at 3 wins, but they're at 3 wins already. It's 3-0 already. Where are you in that feeling?
Well, I've had to kind of check myself a little bit because, and it started with the Colorado game, and that first portion of the Colorado game was you couldn't have really written a more sort of just complete storyline of joyful moments, just getting hits of the good stuff, play after play after play for an entire half. And it kind of felt like everything after that, including the second half of that game, like necessarily had to be a letdown. And it was so you were just so enamored with everything that happened in that first half. It was almost a little bit hard for me after the second half to just appreciate the fact that they got the win in a game that they haven't, historically won very often, and that they played well, and that it wasn't ever particularly in doubt whatsoever. And then I think there was the Northern Iowa game where, again, it was a weird game, Kaleb. I said this to you this morning when we were talking. It was almost like it felt like, okay, I'm watching this, and it felt like Nebraska's giving up. Oh man, they're giving out on a third down play, right? And they're not tackling completely great. And they have some really good offensive drives at the beginning to start the game, but I'm a little surprised they're not getting their running game going. If I didn't have the stats right or the score in front of me, a couple of times I would have thought to myself, okay, this is closer than it really seems, or Northern Iowa's racking up a lot more yards than they actually are. So I think, I honestly think that first half of the Colorado game, at least speaking for myself, kind of impacted the way that I've looked at the performances that have been solid, but not just constant joy from a Husker fan perspective over the next few times. But listen, the truth of it is, if you would go back in time and say to yourself, okay, we'll offer you 3-0 with really no game ever being in doubt in the first 3, a top 5 defense nationally, Dylan Raiola completely looking the part, of course you would have taken that on August 20th, right? So I guess it's just a little bit of matter of perspective. And in reality, it's not truly, true disappointment or perhaps some nitpicking or anything like that. It's just, I think it's high expectations that go along with this team now, which is a weird world to live in because we haven't for so long.
It's nice to be able to hold the conversations and nitpick things of why is the offense maybe not as aggressive in the second half? Why is the defense giving up a 10-minute drive that, it only ends in a field goal? To be able to nitpick those things, as opposed to you have to change the quarterback. You have to wholesale. There needs to be 3 different offensive linemen in there. There's no way this can be the starting running back. And I know there's been the special teams issues still this year, even with 3 wins, but it's not okay, you have to try out everyone from the club soccer team to see who can be the kicker. Like the team is still 3-0, and it doesn't quite feel. Maybe it's because you're still on the up and up with Matt Rule and the way we've seen his year 2 progress go at his previous stops, but it doesn't feel as fake of a 3-0 and a start to the year like Mike Riley's 2016. That team got to 7-0, but that maybe in hindsight was a little bit fake on 7-0 the way the rest of the season went. How do you compare? Because 2016 is going to be brought up a lot because of the bowl drought and the way that team started out in Nebraska, possibly headed towards 7-0 and a date with Ohio State. How are you looking at those comparisons?
First of all, I think does my audio sound okay? By the way, did it just change?
It just changed a little bit. Yeah,
I need to do a refresh here in a little bit. But I'll answer that question though. There was always kind of an air of a lack of confidence around that situation. It seemed like I can remember listening to the call-in shows at that time, and there were a lot of Nebraska eventually ascended to the top 10 at one point. I remember it was a very common refrain, that Nebraska callers to fan shows were actually saying, "I don't buy that they believe in the top 10." I don't know. I'm not hearing a lot of that now, Kaleb. I'm not sure if you are. I'm just not hearing a ton of that right at the moment, and so. I think you're in a place where there's a level of confidence in the team that there has not been for a while. And of course, that's subject to change, right? I think that's subject to change with the next few games, or it's subject to build. But everything that happens continues to sort of be a whole new world for this fan base that they just haven't experienced at all, depending on their age, or they haven't experienced in quite some time.
Yeah, that's the thing. So to me, that's where I was kind of with that Colorado game. For you, I know when we had a couple of years where there were the Oklahoma games. And I know for Jack with the Oklahoma games it felt very much like something that you had grown up on. You grew up on cheering for the misfortunes of Oklahoma in every single way possible. I didn't have that because I was young enough when the Big 12 happened, and that became in the Colorado thing had already started to happen, and Oklahoma had kind of waned. They hadn't really come back yet. And then you got all the way to the mid 2000s, and you had Callahan, and then you get into Riley or Bo Pelini. Colorado was that for me because of that's where it was, and I'm sure. I know the success hasn't been there, but where your son is, probably Iowa is a little bit more there because of just proximity and playing on Black Friday at the end of the year. I got a lot of joy out of beating Colorado, and I didn't care how it happened. And as we compare things a little bit to 2016, I think there's I don't care how it happened. You got to 3-0, but it feels real. Like there are people genuinely believing, oh yeah, Nebraska is a top 25 team. Now but there's the cautious optimism of now we'll see what it's like in the Big Ten. Now we'll see what it's like Friday against Illinois. Now that you're, as Matt Rule said, out of the preseason.
Yeah, one of the interesting things is just I'm curious, Kaleb, to see what it looks like to see this offense actually really like need to score for every drive that they're on, because in truth, about, I don't know, a third of their snaps this year, scoring hasn't necessarily been an urgent need, right?
Right.
I mean, there's been a third of the game where that's kind of been the case. And so I'm really excited to see what that, and I don't expect them to blow out Illinois, but I still feel like until I can really, I don't feel this way so much about the defense, but I feel like I can't really evaluate or even kind of understand the identity of this offense until I get to see them in a game where you don't have a second. Every single one of the second halves of those games, it was just like, hey, we're going to figure out, we're going to make sure we win this game. There's going to be some, we may not show too much, or we may show things on purpose. We're going to make some substitutions, right? We're going to make sure we don't turn the ball over. Like, I want to see that whole offensive strategy for an entire game. I want to see Dylan Raiola using his strengths for an entire game. And I still feel like I've just got I just don't know this offense well enough. Like, for instance, like I honestly thought you would have seen a lot more of Jamal Banks, being kind of a weapon so far this year. And we haven't really seen him. I don't think that's because he's been a disappointment or anything like that. I just, again, I think that changes probably in some ways when they get to a situation where they're going and have an urgent need to score with every possession.
What are your expectations for the Illinois game?
I don't. It's tough because I went in, with kind of. I didn't expect Illinois. I thought Illinois might get in a spot this year, to be honest, where Bielema might start feeling a little bit of pressure after last year. But as soon as they beat Kansas, like, that's off the table, and now they are ranked, but they've done it kind of in an stereotypical way for a Bielema team, right? So it's been not necessarily sort of like the run stopping and the running. It's been with a good turnover margin. It's with a couple of good wide receivers. It's with a quarterback who's been around the block now at this point. And so I don't know what to make of them at all. And the thing is, Kaleb, like, even that Kansas game where they lost, how much different does it look now that Kansas goes in a week later and loses on a Friday night at home to UNLV, right? Yeah. Like, I don't, you're still in kind of an area of the college football season where you have a small number of data points, and that makes it difficult.
Yeah, and that's that UNLV win over Kansas, I feel like changes a whole lot of the way people are viewing Illinois. Now, Nebraska has to take care of business, because if Illinois walks into Nebraska in a night game and wins, I think people are back to believing in Illinois a little bit more and maybe not believing in Nebraska as much. That could change a lot. So this last week, because I, like many people, consume a lot of the media, and especially if it's people that I know, people I've got good relationships, you being one of those, it was a non-conference game against an FCS opponent, and I watched you shotgun a Coke 00 sugar. What is the mood for the start of the Big Ten conference slate? Illinois, home game at night, 400th consecutive sellout.
I don't know. It's hard to tell. It kind of hits me, the day of. That was kind of an impulse move at that point. So you may have to come back and visit with me on Friday, but I didn't like the idea of a Friday game when I first heard it, but as it gets closer, I'm kind of excited about it. There's sort of a novelty, right? You wake up and like, for me at least, I start a work day knowing there's going to be a football game that I'm really interested in. At the end of the game, there's a good slate of games Saturday, especially Saturday night. I feel like I haven't been able to watch the good night games for the last few weeks because I'm kind of zeroed in on what's happening with Nebraska. And then I guess the other thing is that I can actually, like, get some of the things done around my house on Saturday that I always have an excuse, not like, like, you got to clean the garage. It's a clean the garage type of weekend type of situation as well. So it's not as exciting. But no, we'll see when it comes in. It's a little bit more difficult because of what you were alluding to with your last question is I don't know yet what Illinois is, and because Nebraska, it was one of Nebraska's best games last year too, right? That's still sort of that always, it doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense, but that's always kind of fresh in your mind in how you assess what the matchup is going to be against them this year. Of course, they're a different team. Nebraska's a very different team from last year.
Was that the game Malachi Coleman got his touchdown in?
It was Northwestern.
That was Northwestern.
It was at Illinois. You were over at my house. We watched it on my deck.
Yeah, because you were yelling loud enough for all of East Lincoln to know what every play was happening. So I was afraid for anyone who was watching on more of a delay than we were on your back porch.
Well, that's usually a problem because when we watch it outside, there's just an issue because I'm usually doing it on like streaming on like YouTube TV or something like that. And then my neighbors, I live in one of those neighborhoods where we do have people who shoot off fireworks sometimes with every touchdown. And if I watch games outside, you actually have plays. Well, I've actually had to go inside. I got this nice outdoor TV projector setup, and I have to go inside because the dang fireworks in the neighborhood keep spoiling all the touchdowns. So I don't feel that bad.
So speaking of your house, we'll wrap up on this. So football, Nebraska hosting against Illinois Friday night, 7:00 kickoff from Memorial Stadium, 400th consecutive sellout. But it's still a massive week for other things going on, and I know your household is, was specifically your daughter is very into everything happening Husker volleyball. Number 5 in the country, massive week because tonight Huskers are hosting number 2 Stanford. We all remember everything with the Nebraska, with the Huskers and the Cardinal. And then the Cardinals of Louisville, number 4 in the country, hosting Nebraska this weekend on Sunday. And that'll be an 11:30 first serve for that one. And I think they've opened up some of the KFC Yum Center, the upper deck, to where they'll have around 10,000 available, and they should sell that out. So think Bob Devaney Sports Center with a couple thousand there. How's your household handling right now expectations for football and volleyball having a couple of top 5 matches this week?
Well, so I am the only one who gets that's left in my household. Now my son's in college; he's a sophomore at the university, but I am the only one who has anywhere close to the emotional connection to football games. My wife, who is originally from the Hawkeye State, who I've converted into a Husker fan, while she does watch the games, her real loves are Husker basketball and Husker volleyball. My daughter is, to the degree I'm a psycho Nebraska football and basketball fan, she is that way about volleyball. She is a mini me when it comes to that. My son didn't get that gene. My daughter did. And so, yes, she is high strung. I mean, just imagine, Kaleb, you've watched the game with me. It's very similar to watch a game with me. And now that you've got 2 big ones, the only thing that's a saving grace that will keep the intensity down a couple of notches is that it's not against Texas or Wisconsin yet, because she's got rage in her heart for those 2 programs. And so not quite as much for Stanford and Louisville, I don't think. Although maybe if I show her the old whiteboard that Stanford did before the national championship with the hairdryer, maybe that changes things a little bit. So, but no, they've got planned. I was just texting. We're recording this on Wednesday afternoon, and I was just texting with my wife and daughter saying, "All right, we probably better get some snacks made and everything for the volleyball game tonight. Do a little watch party." So we are getting ready for that tonight. Hopefully they'll have a W.
Okay, so it's number 2 Stanford tonight for volleyball, top 25 Illinois Friday, number 4 Louisville on Sunday. Nebraska's football and volleyball, those 3. What's the record when all is said and done Sunday afternoon?
Give me. I'm in my mind. I'm fighting between 2-1 and 3-0. Give me 2-1.
All right, if it's 2-1, what's the 1?
We'll say, man, it's one of the 2 volleyball matches. I can't believe, what kind of world are we living in right now where that's that's the one. I will say Louisville, since it's on the road.
Okay, yep. And that one, I will say this, out of those 3, that one feels like it would hurt the least with it being Danny Busboom Kelly.
Yes.
Like we feel like it's still in the family.
Right. And there's not been, kind of a postseason history necessarily between these 2. And there isn't necessarily kind of the animosity, at least that I'm aware of. I don't know what's happening on the deep recesses of the volleyball internet, but not that I'm aware of. There's no animosity between these fan bases or anything like that. So yeah, it'd be good. And if they can get 1-1, that'd be good. You got to get one of these next 2 though. Because you got to keep up, as you know, Kaleb, what really gets important in volleyball is getting one of those top 4 seeds, right? So you are at home, not only for the first weekend, but for the second weekend, like Nebraska was able to do. And you start getting, 3-4 losses. You got a lot of ground to make up there to make sure you're in that top 4. So yeah, they definitely need to get one, I think, this of these 2.
And give me 3-0. I'm just going to go all in and just push it all in on 3-0 because, as we like to say, I believe in Nebraska.
Good. Bleav. Oh yeah. Oh, there it is.
This is the name of the show right there.
There it is. I see now. Right
up there.
It took me a while, and
All right, there we are. That's Jack Mitchell, host and founder of the I-80 Club, as well as morning show host on KLIN Radio. You can catch a lot of their stuff. I know you guys have got some stuff coming out with I-80 Club over the next couple of days, and of course you guys will have something Saturday morning as well.
Yeah, we keep having weird weekends. We've been wanting to do live kind of late night, end of Saturday recap shows, but Nebraska keeps playing at night or playing on Fridays, so I haven't been able to do that. But this weekend, and we got a lot of free stuff in the club. We also have some premium stuff too. But Alex Kirchner from the Split Zone Duo podcast just sat down with Josh Peterson. We've been doing some I-80 Plus ones where we do interviews. He's one of my favorite podcasters for college football, so was really excited. I haven't even had a chance to hear it yet, but I will soon. And then we are going to be doing our Wednesday show tonight, and that's for subscribers only. But then we're going to go Saturday morning if you want to hear a reaction to the show. Saturday morning, 9:00, and we'll do our live kind of get it overnight to digest it and see what we feel like, and we'll be up bright and early on Saturday to talk about what we thought and get you ready for another college football Saturday.
And anytime that content is free and out there, not just for the subscribers, we've got all of that for you at huskermax.com as well.
Yes. Yeah, and make sure if you click on Husker Max, go to the YouTube page, subscribe to that YouTube page, because sometimes we'll go on and you might not know it, and that way you can always see our schedule, get an alert if we are going to go live for free.
Awesome, Jack. Love hanging out. Love that we can still do that on the radio and do that here as well.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. Great job.
All right. I'm Kaleb Henry. GBR, as always, Bleav in Nebraska.